Growing up, I was always taught by my feminist teachers at my feminist school sponsored by feminist foundations that feminism was empowering, that it enabled women to vote and to join the workforce, and if you disagree in any way with feminists, you're a misogynist. But as I've grown slightly older and wiser, I've come to realize that feminists are actually the biggest misogynists. Because a misogynist is someone who hates women, right? Well, feminism has created a society where women suffer at their own hands. The average woman has no choice in life other than to work a job she hates, where she has to get up early in the morning to commute and literally risk her life on public transportation. At work, she's got to deal with getting harassed by her creepy coworker and take orders from a boss, all for a paycheck. Feminism convinced women that selling your soul for a company that doesn't give a shit about you is more empowering than just making a sandwich. So really, who has hurt women more than the feminists who deceived women to believe that being a wife and a mother was bad? But by far, the worst thing that feminists have done is normalize casual sex and degeneracy for women, because the one thing that destroys a woman's mental health more than social media, more than drugs, is being promiscuous. Feminists have basically told women that it's okay to have casual sex, that they should suck more Chad cock. And to clarify, I'm not talking about intimacy inside of a committed relationship. That's a good, healthy thing. But feminists convinced women to stay single and just hook up with the most attractive guys that they can get and not consider anything else. Because what these people aren't intelligent enough to understand is that when women just go for the most attractive, most charming guys, the same guy ends up sleeping with tens or hundreds of different girls, while the majority of men are sexually deprived. And what feminism doesn't tell women is that when they sleep around in the long term, it makes it harder for them to get the men who will actually commit and provide and love them. You always see these women in their late 20s and 30s saying, "Ah, where are all the good men? There's no good men." Yeah, all the good men are married, bro, and the good men who are still single at 30 don't want you. Like, just because you're the same age as someone doesn't mean you automatically have the same value. Because a lot of men who are still single at 30 spent their 20s building their value, and a lot of women that are still single at 30 spent theirs losing it and wasting time. Because when a woman indulges in the abundance of options that she has at 20, this leads to a lack of good options for her at 30 or 35. Because the good men, at least, are waking up and would literally rather be celibate or become passport bros than deal with damaged women who have overinflated expectations. So these women are either left to be chronically single, or they have to lower their inflated expectations and quote unquote settle for lower value men who don't treat them as well. Everyone's so scared to just state the obvious and say this straight, but I don't care. The more men's peepees a woman has had inside of her, the less desirable she is to good men in the future. The truth is, body count matters. Like, why do you think it's so rare for a woman to be open about her body count? You ask most girls, they're kind of vague about it. They won't count certain peepees because, oh, it was just the tip that time. Like, most women lie because they know it matters. If they actually believed it didn't matter, most women would just openly talk about it like men do. So, in my opinion, not virginity per se, but just reserving intimacy for men who will commit is actually the most empowering thing a woman can do for herself, for her value, for her mental health, for her future fulfillment with her husband, who she actually is going to spend the rest of her life with. Most men wouldn't actually see it as a problem if a woman is still single at 27 and then she wants to settle down. It's only a problem because most women stay single for the wrong reason. And I don't think it's crazy to say that apart from children, young women are the group that has the least amount of independent thought. This has been studied. Women care more than men what other people think about them. Women are more consumeristic. They want to fit in. Young women especially are very susceptible to FOMO, the fear of missing out, and are easily molded by social norms, whereas men don't bend as easily to social conditioning. Masculine men naturally have a lot more mental autonomy. Like, I see a lot of men who really don't care if they're outcasts. They don't care what people think about them. Men who would rather be lonely and different from everyone else than surrounded by degenerates. But no woman wants to feel different. She'd rather just submit herself to the general will of women and do what everyone else is doing, even if that will is detrimental to her well-being. And look, I'm not saying that women are any lesser than men for being like this. The reason people think that when I say this I'm scrutinizing women only think this because the media inaccurately portrays women. Think about it, 90% of the female characters that we see in movies and on TV are written to act like men, so people start to think that that's the ideal for women when in reality it's scripts. They're written by men who don't understand real women, so they just write a woman who's a man, or they're written by feminist women who think that women should act more like men. Like, if there was a movie with a woman that was actually realistic, it'd just be her changing her mind every 5 minutes minutes, be like, oh, I don't feel like it. She'd have random stomach aches for half the movie. In any emotionally demanding situation, she'd just start crying and call her dad or call her boyfriend. She would definitely not act like these macho women that we see on TV, and this is not a bad thing. Women just operate from a different worldview than men. Women are a lot more easily influenced by emotions and by social pressure because throughout most of human history, whenever a village or kingdom was conquered, the men would be removed and the women would be left to assimilate in with their conquerors, so it made sense to have the fear of missing out and to conform to what everyone else was doing. So women aren't the problem in all this. The problem is that feminism takes advantage of young women's emotional instinct to want to fit in by convincing them that degeneracy is a part of fitting in. They make it seem like going to clubs, parties, bars, getting drunk, and hooking up with random men is like a requirement, like a rite of passage, when in reality it's a terrible habit. And clubs and parties are one of the most dangerous places for a woman. You're surrounded by drunk, horny men who are trying to buy you drinks, who might roofie you. You are most likely to be SA'd or raped by someone that you met at a nightclub or at a party. It's honestly evil that feminists deceive women to want to put themselves in these environments, and they do it using feminism's greatest weapon, you go girl culture. This whole you go girl thing between women is almost like a social tool that feminism created, where women encourage each other to do things that are terrible for themselves. And you'll notice that even women who claim to be anti-feminism and conservative participate in you go girl culture, and the reason it's able to infect so many women is because it uses women's natural instinct for indirect competition with one another. Men naturally compete with physicality, with logical facts, whereas female competition is more emotional and backhanded. Body positivity is the perfect example of this. A woman will almost never tell a fat girl that she's fat and that she needs to lose weight, and one of the most instinctual reasons for this is to lessen her potential competition for mates and resources. Women encourage each other to stay fat, to go out more, to slut themselves out, because everyone deep down knows that these are bad things. And it's funny because every girl thinks that she's the exception. Women will say, I don't go out for anyone but myself. I don't do it for guys. I do it for me, to let loose a little. But it's like, yeah, of course you're gonna say that. No girl's gonna say, I go out because of FOMO and I listen to peer pressure and I want to get male attention. Of course, she's just gonna say, I do it for myself. Most women simply aren't self-aware enough to realize why they do what they do and aren't mentally strong enough to resist the fear of missing out from going out and from all of their friends. But the minority of smart women realize that while the idea of going out is enticing, the risk that something bad happens that scars you for life just isn't worth it. Smart women know that just because something is fun and other women do it doesn't automatically mean that you should do it. And the worst part about all of this is the deception. Feminism lies to women that they can have both. You can have fun while you're young, have the career, slut yourself out because you only live once, and then when you're ready to settle down, none of that will matter because people change. I disagree. I don't believe most people change. Their actions change, but their mindset stays the same. A woman might stop going to the club every weekend and stop slutting herself out to random men, and she'll start making you wait 3 dates to give herself up when Chad only had to wait 5 minutes, but the damage that comes from having all of those guys inside of her is permanent. In reality, it's kind of like the Life of Pablo album cover. You have to choose one. And yes, it is a double standard that men aren't hurt from casual sex in the same way that women are, but it's not the men who make it that way, it's women. Most women, even virgin women, don't really care about a man's body count. They're much more down for the whole people change thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can't blame men for being disgusted by a high body count, and you can't blame women for not caring about body count. Just blame human biology and psychology. Because there are biological double standards for men and women. For example, women care a lot more about a man's confidence and his ambition and his ability to provide for her when they have children, which I would argue is a lot more difficult than just not letting a bunch of random guys inside your body. I believe double standards are not just some social construct like feminism wants you to believe. They are a product of our biology. I'm not going to get too much into this topic, I'll save it for another video, but just understand that men value women based on their past and women value men based on their future. The last thing I have to say about feminism, or really any ideology, is look at the people who participate the most in this ideology and ask yourself, are these people happy? When they're on their deathbed, are they truly fulfilled? Like, can you imagine a 90-year-old being like, I'm so glad I sucked so many Chad cocks. I'm so glad I went to those parties and did those substances. Would they be like that? Or would they be kind of regretful that they didn't do more of the wholesome things? Like, imagine you've lived the entire life of a woman or a man who ignored the deception of feminism and focused on the things that you know actually matter. Imagine you're 90 years old, standing next to your husband or wife, looking at your entire family of like 50, 60 people, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. In that moment, do you think you'd be like, gosh, I wish I went to more clubs. I wish I sucked more strangers' cocks, and possibly all these people wouldn't exist if I did that? Or would you be like, I'm so grateful that I didn't listen to that voice in my head, that I knew all it would have been is short-term fun at the expense of my long-term fulfillment, because I've made my choice. Click and watch this video right here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.